Hey there, comic book friends. I'm Travis, and it's time for an edition of Uncover the Covers. We are going to talk about comic book covers from the December solicitations for Image Comics 2014. Been a while since I've done one of these, so we'll kind of venture into it and see how well I do with the whole screen sharing thing and all that kind of fun. For those of you who have never actually seen one of these things, it could last however long it lasts for me to talk about the covers. And I'm basically giving my somewhat uneducated, somewhat unexpert opinion on what I think about the covers. Not necessarily the book themselves. I'm just going to talk covers, the design, how it's put together, why I like it, why I don't like it, or have an opinion or whatever. This is basically back due to popular demand, I guess, is what I want to say. A lot of people have commented on the fact that they really like these. So we'll get back into it and see what happens, right? Okay, so let's see here. Let me set up some screens and see if I can get this going the right direction here. And yeah, hopefully this won't be total chaos, right? Screen share. I think I want to go entire screen because otherwise it doesn't. Oh, look at that. Isn't that awesome? Don't you love looking at that? Wow. Okay, so here we go. Image Comics. And for the Image Comics, just for full disclosure, I am getting this off of the Image, their website. So that's where all of these things are going to come from. So we're going to start right off by talking about Bitch Planet, issue number 1. There we go. Okay. I'm just reading some stuff that's popping up on here. Hangouts, just sharing your screen with Google+. Awesome. Okay, so let's ignore that. Check real quick. Seems to be showing up. Okay, so let's talk Bitch Planet. Okay, first and foremost, this is issue number 1. I liked the image, and I wish I had it here because I didn't realize this was going to come up. Of the tease for this comic, you know, was a kind of a planet and a big fist coming up, you know, in defiance. I liked that image. That was a pretty cool image. So anyway, let's talk Bitch Planet number 1. I like the logo first and foremost. I like that Bitch Planet, the kind of, you know, Saturn-looking planet there. For the O or for the C in Bitch, that's pretty awesome. I like the negative use of space. Of obviously we have you know, a prisoner or something like that, and then we get in the 3 different spaces basically. Well, I guess 4. One's the planet up there on the top, and then we have these 3 other spaces that kind of tell us a story of potentially the kind of things that might be going on in it. You know, obviously we have some sort of, I don't know, fight, gladiator type thing going on in between the arms, the top there, off to the left-hand side. We obviously have whoever's in charge. There's some, you know, woman or something sitting there in charge with some thugs. And then, of course, on the right-hand side, we have what looks to be fairly typical, you know, prisoner life hanging out next to the cells and whatnot. I love the coloring. I like the kind of, looks like, you know, broken or worn out paper is our white. And, of course, purple. I'm a big fan of purples. So that works. And it makes, the purple makes the yellow logo pop. So, all great stuff, I think. I think that's a good cover. Like I said, maybe not as striking as the original one. I saw the promotion for it, but still pretty cool cover. Okay, next we're going to talk Rumble issue number 1. This is a Bitch Planet I'm going to get. I'm also going to get Rumble too. Okay, so Rumble number 1. I believe the cover is by James Herring, as it shows there. Colors by Dave Stewart. You know, so awesome coloring on it, of course. I do like this cover. I like the darkness around it. I'm fine with the logo going down the one side. You know, you have kind of an interestingly lit alleyway. It looks like some, you know, wet, narrow alleyway and whatnot, and this relatively two-toned character on it with this giant weird-looking sword type thing. But I do like the style of this. It reminds me of some of the Dark Horse stuff, which makes a certain amount of sense because most of these guys actually work for Dark Horse pretty regularly, you know, the writers and the colorists and whatnot. So makes sense that it would have that kind of a vibe to it as far as that goes. But yeah, I like it. I like the coloring. I like I even like the coloring of the shadow of the figure down towards the bottom. It's got a different kind of a color to it than almost like a reflection, like there's oil in the water that's on the ground, which is all kind of more of a your dank alleyway kind of a thing. Yeah, I think it's an interesting cover. I don't know that I'm totally sold on the font and logo, that big wide fat thing like that. We'll see going forward how that logo works on future issues, I think. But I like it. This cover would make me interested to pick the book up and take a look at it. Yeah. Let's see. Graveyard Shift #1 miniseries. I like the simplicity of this cover. How the Graveyard Shift, the logo itself, kind of works into the tree that's back there in this you know, cemetery. You know, we get a sense of what's going on here, but it stays mostly in grays and blacks and whites. I like the light coming from the bottom, basically the bottom left-hand corner of the cover, so it looks like it's sunset. Basically, is what I would guess is what that kind of looks like to me. I'm perfectly fine with the faces being shadowed and whatnot. Obviously, it's some sort of remorseful situation since how they're in a cemetery. You know, interesting to see, you know, just from a pure storytelling standpoint, that's the man that's slumped down, and the woman seems to be the stronger of the two. You know, just general perceptions of the picture of it. So yeah, it's interesting. I have no idea what this book is about whatsoever. This cover would make me pick it up and flip it open and take a look at it. I don't think I have this on my poll, and I'm not sure I'm going to put it on my poll. I'll do some reading about it, but that's another story. They're Not Like Us, #1. Look at all these #1s right off the bat. Okay, so mostly white cover, which sometimes is cool and sometimes is bad. I mean, for fingerprint purposes and stuff like that, it's bad because I'm always worried about transferring as far as or dirtying the comic up. I'm actually okay with the white cover otherwise, like this, because it's this band going across there. Obviously, that band of art instantly tells us some sort of a story. You know, you got the word bubble there. It says that girl's going to jump. You know, you're obviously on the edge of a building. That's telling us some kind of story. And, you know, some worn out all-star Converse, you know, pants with holes in it. That all kind of tells us somewhat of a story as far as I'm concerned. So I'm always interested in that. Any cover that's going to actually tell me a piece of story, I really like. To me, that appeals to me more than, say, a superhero cover that's just got a hero splashed across it and it's kind of meaningless in any sense. So this interests me. I love the title, They're Not Like Us. I like that logo. I even like the not equal sign that's inside the O. Yeah, I'm fine with that. I even like having a nice title down at the bottom of it. It reminds me some of like the East of West type books. I'm trying to think. I think there's a few other books that are out right now that use this kind of a page layout where it tells us, you know, what the title is and whatnot. So I'm curious. I'm curious about this book. It's going to end up on my poll. Just that, if I was in the store, that would make me somewhat interested. First off, They're Not Like Us. That's an interesting statement. And like I said, not a lot of art, so it's not a splashy cover, but I like the fact that it tells me a little bit of story. That, to me, that is cool. That works. So excited by that. So let's see here. Let's move on. So speaking of East of West, here is East of West issue number 16. Another simple cover, as most of these East of West covers are. I like that simply because in this case, it's really easy to pick out the East of West covers. They're distinct. They all, I don't want to say they look alike, but they do look alike because you have the logo in the exact same place right across the middle. The bottom of the page is, I believe, is always white, and the top of the page, of course, will have some sort of picture in it. This is kind of an interesting picture. I don't know if you're not reading the book, if you know what that is. I believe that's the circle where the horsemen rise up from. I'm thinking. Yeah, not the most striking, like I said, not the striking of covers, but I like it for this book. Do I want a bunch of covers to work this way? No. But this one's fine for what it is, but not really exciting. The latest issue of East and West I liked better. It had a big sunflower on it. It looked more like something. But I still feel like this is trying to tell me some sort of story. There's some sort of powwow going on in the middle of there. You know, you can kind of see the fact that there's, you know, people sitting inside that circle of stones. So, interested in as far as that goes, but not really striking. Would that make me pick it up? That picture? Probably not. The title East and West would make me interested in it, just for me personally. But yeah, I like the design of these covers of East and West, but this one in particular isn't very captivating. Okay. Magdalena, the Seventh Sacrament one-shot. I have no idea what this is at all. Not that that matters. We're talking covers, right? So, a computer-painted type cover. We have what looks to be almost like a nun-type figure holding onto the spear. Energy all around her and the sphere, and then in the background we've got some fangs of some vampire person. Okay, what frustrates me in the fact is I can see behind that behind that logo that's there, that the artist actually rendered eyes and stuff on this vampire dude, and if I can kind of see that, it irritates me that they've been obscured by the logo. Either that should have been lowered, the whole picture should be smaller so I can see that, or it shouldn't be there at all. That frustrates me. Composition-wise, it does work. You've got the face in the in the middle back there. That's obviously some nemesis of some sort, and with her kind of off to one side, that's okay because it's balanced with the with the spear itself. So that's okay. Not my cup of tea as a general rule, but interesting, I guess. Shelter number 15. People still picking this book up? I haven't heard a whole lot about it. At any rate, I do like this cover. This is a really interesting cover. It's got a very apocalyptic or like, it reminds me of like the bombs in Hiroshima when they were dropped and all that was left of some people were just piles of ash and that sort of a thing. It has that feel to it. That red, those red and orange hued background lends to that kind of a thing, and it makes the because that's such a bright, it makes the grays and blacks and whites of these characters in the forefront stand out. These statues that are crumbling apart, it looks like, except they look like they were alive at one point. So that's cool. That's a striking cover. Composition-wise, it works. Centered at an angle makes it a little more. The ground at an angle makes it a little more interesting to the eye. You got the one main person in the forefront, and then equal people off to the backs to level the cover out so it doesn't feel unbalanced, like it's going to tip over one direction, or another. And there's nothing going on up around the logo except for trees, so the logo doesn't feel like it's obscuring some piece of art really for me to make it less interesting. So yeah, that's an intriguing book, intriguing cover. Other than if those white blobs are supposed to be snow coming down, it's awfully big snowflakes. But that's being nitpicky, right? Shutter number 7. Okay. I'm trying to figure this cover out. Why there's that band of white at the bottom of it. I'm trying to remember if other Shutter covers have a band across the bottom of it that has some information in it or not. I am not sure. A mauve cover, that's interesting. I like the frame within a frame kind of a thing. So you've got the comic book itself is it's frames the piece of art, and then in this case you actually have a frame with within the cover, and some of the things are spilling off that frame. That's interesting. Like the bits and pieces of flippers, the tentacled face, the bat wings are all kind of tipping off. It's well balanced. It's well balanced as far as the character in the middle and the stuff around it. It fills the page up well. It doesn't tip it in any direction or another. You've got a wide gambit of colors all set on a black background as they're coming out of a black space. That all works, and because they use those colors close to the blacks that she's wearing don't completely disappear. And all of these characters are really interesting looking. That bat creature with a revolver head, for instance, is just fascinating. It's the kind of stuff. I would pick this book up just out of curiosity as to what is going on with all these creatures on it and whatnot. A pretty decent cover. Is this art style that four-color superhero type art? Nope, it's sure not. But this represents the kind of the art style that's in the book, and I think is interesting. Those are a bunch of interesting characters. Would make me open up to look to see what the heck those things are and what's going on inside of them. Okay, the Wicked plus the Divine. Is it the Wicked plus the Divine, or is it the Wicked and the Divine? See, I think it's the plus because of the plus there and whatnot. So this is issue number, what do I want to say? It is number 6. All the covers so far have looked like this in the sense that it's a very close-up, profile picture of somebody who's in the book. And with the logo being the Wicked, plus the Divine's upside down, kind of thing. So that's all standard. And this is another one of those books that uses a frame within a frame. Simply, it's just that kind of white line that's around it makes it look more like a picture, which works. It works especially for the profile thing. I like these covers. I like the fact they're all this way. I'm curious as to how long this comic can go on, giving us a face shot for all the covers. I guess as long as they don't run out of characters, right? Or if the characters actually change, I guess they can put them in again. So it's interesting for that. It'll look cool in a collection. When you start thumbing through all those books and you have all these faces you can just flip through, that'll be cool and stuff. I think as we start to look back at them, we're going to find out just how strong the artist's work is on faces, how much his faces all alike or don't look alike. So that's probably brave of him. But I like it. I don't even mind the fact that the logo is always over their faces because the logo is translucent. You can see through it. So it works as far as that goes also, for you to be able to see in and see what's past it and that sort of thing. So yeah, I like these covers. They're interesting. I see these people's faces and I go, what's that guy about? Why does he got that star on his eye? Why is his eyes glowing? And would make me want to pick up the book at any time. So it works as far as that goes. Okay, I'm gonna scroll past all of the trades that are coming out, because I just want to talk single issues. And there are a bunch of trades coming out from Marvel, from Image, which is awesome for them. But I don't want to talk about all of those. And let's see here. Stray Bullets, T-shirts, Southern Bastard T-shirts. Okay, that's kind of cool. Let's click on that for a second. There you go. Sweet Tea. Walked off with the Kool-Aid thing. That's pretty funny. And Boss Barbecue. Anyway, if you're into Southern Bastards, that's kind of amusing. Let's see. Let's go down here to, I think we're going to look at Alex and Ada. And I'm also trying to check my comments as they pop in. Mr. DaCosta says there's no audio coming from his phone. I hope that means that audio is working for the Hangout. I'm going to flip over here really quick. I hope it's working. I'm going to assume it is because I see the little lights lighting up and whatnot that say it's working. And hopefully everybody's seeing what I'm seeing. So, I'll go back to this. Alex Nada, number 11. I hear such good things about this book. I don't collect it, though. So, this is an interesting image. There's a lot of ways of looking at this. You know, electronically staring off into the, into the light at the end of the tunnel, potentially looking at the sun. You know, it's just kind of a silhouette. I think this is coming to an end, some sort of a closure. To me, this feels like a closure cover of sorts. And like I said, for me, that maybe has to do with the fact the whole, walk into the light silliness that we, hear on television and in books and stuff like that. So, I could be wrong, but that's what it is. Fairly simple cover, simple art. I think that's kind of representation of the art that's inside of it, is my understanding. But I like it. I like it for what it is. I do like the fact that they put the title and all of that up in its own space up above and don't alter the art. So I appreciate that. Not a very exciting cover. Birthright number 3. There's the difference. An exciting cover. So here we've got, obviously, checking my comments again because I just heard more comments roll in. Okay. People are showing up and saying hi. Hi, guys. So Birthright, issue number 3. Great logo. I like the logo as far as this kind of fantasy, urban fantasy sort of things going. I think this cover works really well color-wise. You've got the bright reds down in one corner. You got these nice, cool blue hues. Those are, kind of, opposite on the color wheel from each other to a degree. So you get a striking contrast there as far as that goes. Obviously, this is a battle going on here. It's very dynamic. The composition works because you have this character's big wings up there filling that right top corner of the space to counterbalance the heavy weight of this red-faced monster that's down at the bottom. And the two are linked together, obviously, through that giant lance or spear that's being driven through the monster's head. You got this crackling bright light that's coming in from behind this person with the wings. Which, like I said, to me kind of counterbalances the whole thing. I think your eyes are initially drawn either to the monster and work your way up, or drawn to the bright light, depending on how your brain works, and then you're kind of pulled down into this winged person down into the monster down there, with the spirit being driven through it. That's a dynamic cover. That's a cool cover. This is a cover that would make me pick it up just because it's pretty violent and awesome looking to find out exactly what's going on in the book. So I even like the blurring up around the top right and left hand corners. So it's kind of the blurring of the wings and stuff. Sometimes I don't like that effect. I know that's a coloring effect that happens digitally to make that work that way. I'm fairly sure. It gives the wingtips motion, so that works too as far as the little details. I do like it. That's pretty cool. Copperhead, number 4. So, I like this cover. I like this cover because this is a traditional, Western or cop type picture here. Got this character obviously staying in the rain. You can clearly see the rain bouncing off his armor, bouncing off his fur even. I love the gun really close to us. It's so close to us that it's blurry because, of course, it's so close to our face that your eyes aren't going to focus on that because we're focused on the person who's pointing the gun at us. They do a good job of that blur. We don't really start to see the gun clearly until we've passed the front sight and are moving towards the back sight there. It's a very moody piece, all being in blues like that, whether it's raining really hard or it's nighttime or whatever. That just adds to the mood of the piece, and I like it. I think it works really well to just strike that we're in some rainy, dank conditions. This guy doesn't look happy. His mouth is downturned. Whether or not that's his natural facial feature or not, I have no idea at this point. But still, it looks like a grim situation in the rain, and we're at gunpoint. And I like it. It's a good cover. It's an interesting cover. Fills the page. The proportions work really well. Like I said, your eye focuses initially on that gun barrel. I mean, I think it does, and you just work your way wrap the gun right to the character's face, which is ideally what it should do. That's good composition. Cal, issue number 7. As far as being a simple, more of a stylized or using graphics as opposed to drawing or painting a full picture for us here. I think this really works. I'm not sure exactly what the point of the 2 lines going down the right-hand side and the lines across the bottom are, just to add some color to the picture or not. I don't understand what the point of that is, but that's, and I think that's unfortunate because it draws your eye to that right bottom corner, and I don't think there's a reason why we'd want to do that, because our eye really should be drawn first to the silhouette of this character there. And it's an interesting silhouette because the cowl patch, the Union patch on his coat is still visible, and that circle that's on his shirt is still visible if you're familiar with this character. He's obviously carrying a picket sign. They clearly made sure you could read the picket sign, no money, no safety. And then there's all the signs laying on the ground. That's all really interesting, and I think that really works. I don't even mind the strange texture they put behind the whole thing, which, is okay. You could say it's a lazy way to fill up the background, so it gives it something, but I'm okay with that texture. That doesn't pull my eye away from the main picture. But those red lines are odd to me, just because I think it wants to draw your eye as the viewer to that corner, and I'm not sure why we'd want to look at that corner, other than I guess you look at Cal and your eyes want to draw down that red line, which makes you kind of pass what you should be looking at. And just as a side note, I like the Cal logo because I like the Chicago Organized Workers League. That is the O in Cal. I like that part of it. It's pretty cool. Yeah. So like the cover as a whole, but I'm confused as to why those red lines are there, because it just draws us to a place that I don't think that we necessarily wanted to be at. Dead at 17, issue number 5. I don't know anyone who's reading this book that means anything, because we're talking covers. I don't know. I mean, this cover doesn't excite me a whole lot. This character form, I'm not particularly interested in, and the symbols that are around it, yeah, okay. The colors, I wish they made the colors actually bright and made this cover bright as opposed to flat, because right now it looks flat. All the coloring on it's flat. I'm just kind of looking at it, trying to take in things about it. The lighting, where the light source is coming from on this person's figure, doesn't 100% make sense. It makes sense in some places. The torso, it makes sense. Even on the arms, it makes sense to a degree, but I'm not understanding the head, unless the light, I guess, is coming down on the top of her head. I don't know. This is one of those covers where it's a character kind of tossed out into a void of just random stuff in the background, it feels to me like, and those covers always don't do well for me. They don't hold up. Okay, Deadly Clash, issue number 10. I like this cover, and this is why I like this cover, because the cover, obviously, it's a desk. We know this is, Deadly Class. The title of it alone tells us that we're in school of some sort. You've got down in the bottom left-hand corner, you have one of those science books where it's got the transparencies of the human body. As you peel the skin back, you get the muscles, the bones, and the organs, all that kind of stuff. That's fun. So you got all these little books and pens and stuff around it. And this is clearly somebody has, on a piece of paper while they should be doing homework or whatever, has drawn out, the Deadly Class has drawn out Marcus, our character Marcus, and, has drawn, guns and stuff, shooting him up and blowing him up and whatnot. And I don't know about girls. I'm sure they doodle and do this kind of stuff too, because why wouldn't they, right? But I certainly know I used to sit in class in school, and maybe not quite as bloody as this, but I certainly would doodle this kind of stuff and whatnot. So I just think it's fun. I think it's fun that clear down to the Deadly Class logo, the creators' names across the top there, the image, all that stuff is like it's been hand drawn by, by some kid in class, and so I like it. I think it's fun. I think it's fun for that. For that reason. Is this? Oh, you can't see my arrow. Or I don't think you can see my arrow anyway. The middle right-hand side, is that the corner of a Rubik's Cube? It kind of looks like it is, and that's strange if that's the case. But I guess it is the 80s though, right? So that would make a certain amount of sense. Death Vigil number 6. I don't care for this. I don't care for this cover at all. I mean, I get that it's supposed to be a tombstone, I'm assuming. The name Samuel Lewis is obviously carved into this tombstone. That makes sense and whatnot. This picture in the front of these two, I don't know, demon heads or whatever they are, that are holding in their mouth a pick and a shovel, those do not actually look like they're on the tombstone. They look like they were something that was placed on after the fact, or they're actually floating in the foreground with us, while that tombstone is sitting someplace in the background. That doesn't make sense to me, because I'm assuming that's supposed to actually be part of this tombstone. And it's either a coloring mistake or, well, I think it's mostly a coloring mistake. It's not laid on the stone right to make it look like it's part of it. It's a completely separate thing that was tossed on afterwards. And yeah, it does not work well for that. It looks like it's its own thing, and then we have this meaningless, gray, stretched out pentagram in the background as a background noise, and yeah, does not really work for me. So, Drifter number 2. Okay, so interesting. Not really looked at any of these Drifter. These Drifter covers. Sorry, I'm kind of looking over comments. Okay. Sorry. Quit reading the comments and talk. So, issue number 2. I've never looked at any of the Drifter covers before. This is kind of an interesting cover. I'm not sure if I'm really excited by that logo. It is interesting how it's kind of haha drifting away. I'm not sure why it's all gridded, so I'm curious to see from other covers if that's the case, but we'll talk just this cover, right? So my eye immediately goes to that big white spot that's lacking color. It's the spot to go to first, right? Your eye goes there because it's this bright round circle, which then draws you down to the silhouette of this person with a staff or whatever. So that's interesting. Of course, that immediately pulls your eyes over to the creators' names, and then whatever that, I'm assuming that's a city down there. Oh, no, it's a boat. Is it a boat or is it a city? I'm not sure, because it looks like almost like we're underwater. All those blues and stuff to me looks like it's underwater, and but I think it's probably a city, because back behind the Drifter, it looks like there's a mountain range back there, but I'm not 100% sure. And the reason I say this looks almost like a boat, it's not because of the round circle that's next to the big white dot, but if you go to the left-hand side of the big white dot, down there by the silhouetted person's leg, there's kind of a rounded curve of like the front of a boat, but probably that's not the case. I'm not familiar with this book at all, so I have no speculation other than first looking at this. I'd probably open this book up just to see what the art's like on the inside. If the art is reflective, this cover is what's on the inside, because it's somewhat interesting. Interesting how they colored that silhouetted figure too, because it's almost like there was a bright color underneath it, and then they marked over it with a not completely with a black that's not strong enough to completely drown out the color behind it. It's interesting. I don't know that it's a great cover, but it's interesting, I guess. 5 Ghosts, issue number 15. I love the 5 Ghost covers. Yeah, and this is why I like the 5 Ghost covers. First and foremost, you get the title. It's off by itself, so it doesn't obscure any of the art itself. And to me, this just screams old school, Silver Age comic book. You've got our main character there. He's riding this interesting carriage. It looks like a medical carriage because you can see the I forget what it's called, the rod with the wings on it and whatnot. Someone's going to tell me. DeCosta's probably there ranting at whatever it's actually called. I can't remember what the stupid symbol is called. At any rate, he's riding along. It's got zombies on it. It's got a big gorilla on it. It's got the guy wearing the plague doctor mask on it. It's really dynamic. It's this great, dark blues and the yellows, oranges, which are somewhat contrasting colors to each other. That all works systemic. And then over on the side, you've got also Van Helsing, which is to me that also, and then showing another piece of story going on. This reminds me of those old Silver Age books, and I get a kick out of that. Whether the stories were great back in those old Silver Age books is debatable, but I really think a lot of the art in some of those Silver Age books was amazing. And to me, that's one of the things that, of course, I love about this book in general, just the fact it has that sort of feel to it. So I think it's cool. I think it's a cool cover. It tells a story in some sense. Gives you some stuff that's going on. Yeah, interesting. Fuse, number 8. One of those titles I don't really know of anyone who's reading. I'm not a big fan of this cover. I mean, the logo itself is great. It centers your eye right in the middle of the thing, and then you work your way down to the character. So composition-wise, the cover works fine. Artistically, to me it seems really simple, and then the type of colors that are put on it, the attempts to give it shadowing and depth kind of fail to me. The guy's face still looks flat. And everything about it looks flat to me. So I talk about it a lot because I don't like dishing on ones that I don't care for. And it's not that it's horrible. It's not that interesting, and it's flat. I think it's flat anyway. If you guys disagree with me, please comment and tell me you disagree. I'll catch your comments either at some point. I don't really want to flip over in the middle and talk comments. Actually, let's do that. I'm going to stop sharing the screen share. Hey, and there I am. So look over comments. Problem is with the Hangouts nowadays, it's got this comment tracker, but the comment tracker only tracks for so long, and then it quits commenting. So, Awesome Love Super Dyke, how's it going? Friday all, yes it is. And then we got John on here, John DeCosta. He's chatting up a whole bunch. Silhouette of the Sand People from Star Wars. You're right, it does kind of have that kind of look, doesn't it? 5 Ghosts is phenomenal, old school classic. Yep. The question was about the medical symbol. What is that called? It starts with an H. It's like it's not the Hippocratic Oath, but I mean it starts with an H too, doesn't it? That the rod with the wings on it and the snake coiled around it, whatever that is, that doctors have on all their crap. I'm gonna look here real quick on my phone to see if I can catch any other comments because they're coming in on my thing, but they're not coming in on the comment tracker very well. Yeah. I guess that's it. We'll go back to talking covers, huh? Let's do that. Entire screen. Oh, the chaos. Okay. So, God Hates Astronauts. I have no idea what this book is about, but I'm thinking I need to pick it up. This cover is awesome. Okay, so you have this crazy wide-eyed, what looks to be a large-fanged tiger, like I said, with these crazy eyes. It's wearing a crown of some sort, and it looks like it's eating a hero sandwich or a sandwich full of crazy people of some sort. But they look kind of like heroes. And to me, that's funny. A hero sandwich with actual heroes in it. That's a great gag. I love it. That cover is a cool cover. It's, to me, it just, these people are all interesting down here. Your face is immediately drawn because those eyes are so bright. I think your eyes are immediately drawn to its eyes, and then you just kind of work your way down to the mouth and what the heck is it eating. I think that's it's great. I like the dynamic logo of God Hates Astronauts too. That's fun. Like the hues that it's done in, it looks kind of crazy pants and like something I'd be interested in checking out. Here is an alternative cover. Now see, this cover I don't know that I'd be that interested in. It's interesting. I like the colors of it. The purples, of course, as you'll hear me talk about in most of these shows, that I like purples. But yeah, obviously in a submarine, periscope there, and some sort of webbed hand, crab-headed dude or dudette. Yeah, I don't know. That one's okay, but the other one I really like. The Goners, number 3. Okay, so I'm trying to figure this cover out. Obviously, our eyes, I think, are immediately drawn to the upper left-hand corner with that eye socket that's there. And we figure out it's an eye socket because it goes down to the jaw. And then there's the rocks bursting from the bottom. And you've got the logo of the Goners, which I do kind of like the logo. And I like the 2 kids that are in the O, that make the O part of it. That's all fine. But why is the background that yellow, and it looks like it's folded up pieces of paper or something that have been unfolded after being folded a bunch of times? Or it's a screen or something. It's like they just went, gee, we need some random text throw, some random textile to, and texture to throw behind this seeming rock creature. That cover doesn't do anything for me. That doesn't make me interested to pick the book up or anything. I just understand. I'm more curious as to why they made the choices that they did. I mean, I'm happily fine with the fact that the title is like being smashed or whatever. I always find that kind of fun if you can make it part of the cover, if the cover is that kind of dynamic. But why it's smacking it with its chin, I don't know. And so that's not that appealing of a cover. Plus, the yellow on it, the cover is okay, but that red is verging on browns, and browns are boring, at least for me, and are not something that make me want to pick up a comic or make up a comic. Let's go down here to the Inhumans, issue number 2. This cover's interesting because it's interesting to kind of look at that wanted poster. Composition-wise, I guess it works because you've got the the long like telephone pole that this wanted poster is stuck on, and then you have our character staying next to it, this long too, so that balances out the whole the two spaces. I don't know if this is that interesting of a cover though. Man, I'm curious to read the stuff that's printed there, but yeah, it's kind of boring otherwise, I think. I don't know if this would make me pick it up. I mean, I'm curious about it, but I don't know that there's anything about that wows me or makes me go, oh man, I'm excited by that or whatever. And I mean, I know you want to keep the background simple so it doesn't overpower your foreground stuff, but that's a really simple background. Anyway. Okay, Intersect, number 2, and this is one of those covers that drive me crazy, because everything's blended together. I don't mind a cover where you've got multiple things going on in it, But for it to work, it's like some of those covers we looked at earlier where there's something that breaks up. Well, like Bitch Planet, the first cover we looked at, where that silhouette breaks up, makes panels on the cover. And so you can have these different things going on, and they feel like things that might be happening in the book or telling a story or that sort of thing. Whereas here, with it all blended together like it is, and not blended together in a way that makes you feel like there's a smooth transition, it just feels messy to me. It's like the artist was sitting around doodling, and for a while wanted to doodle a woman singing or something, and then I wanted to doodle a guy holding his head like he has a headache, and maybe I'll have some crazy butterflies coming out of his head, and the two doodles kind of ran into each other, and it's like, I got these butterflies off to the right side now. I need to think of something to put on the left-hand side, so we'll put some gears under her armpit and call it a cover, right? To me, that's what this looks like. Perfectly happy with it. I'm okay. White cover, no white cover. Holy cow, there's a lot of those. Anyway, I like the logo. The Intersect logo. This happens to be a comic book that I am curious about, but this cover would not make me curious. This cover frustrates me. This is the kind of cover that frustrates me, like floating head covers frustrate me. So not excited by this cover, and I'm also frustrated by it because the colors are so weak. I mean, I get that it's kind of like seemingly they're done with watercolors or done with watercolor pencils or whatever, and so it's not going to be a strong image. But I think it needs to be a stronger image because nothing about that is striking. Individually, the pieces might be okay, but I don't like how they blend together like that because they don't blend together in a way that makes sense. If that makes sense. If not, I'm sorry. Okay, Lazarus, issue number 14. Maybe. There we go. Okay, so where are her legs? That's my first question. I get she's kind of swimming towards us and down, but somewhere there we should see some piece of leg, right? Unless she's lost her legs, and I'm assuming that that's forever, and I don't think she's lost her legs. Okay, beyond that, I like it. I like it though. You get the title, that bright spot up above. She's swimming down in the water. I like the bubbles that are rolling off of her. Looks like a scene out of a movie or a movie poster. And so I think it's striking for that. I don't mind the fact that there's all this dark void down there because he's obviously swimming down into the darkness of something, and it works. That bright at the top, wherever the surface is at, so it clearly lets us know she's swimming downwards, and it being dark. Yeah, I'm okay with that being the cover. That's a striking image. Like I said, to me, that looks like a movie poster. I could easily see that hanging up in the lobby of a theater, talking about whatever movie that it is. So I think that's pretty good. Pretty good. Little Depressed Boy, supposed to be there too. Issue number 3. Those books I don't think I know anybody is talking about. But anyway, it's okay. The art doesn't strike me as being awesome or anything. Composition-wise, it works really well. You've obviously got the band up there. We're clearly supposed to be paying attention to them. Then you've got the audience that's all in grays, and relatively you don't see much about them. And then, of course, our two main characters in the foreground, holding hands, well lit, well colored. So those are the things that we're supposed to be concentrating on. I think because of the way the band members are all faced, our eyes focus to the female guitarist there, having a few notes flying up off in the distance to balance out versus the title on the left-hand side, I think works. It doesn't super excite me, but I think it works as far as a cover goes of this style of book. Low, issue number 6. Okay, so I like this cover because I like this style of painting that's done here. It takes a little bit to take it in what's going on. There's obviously this lion, it seems, crawling over a wall. There's a woman riding its back. it looks like, with a large gun. The gun's got some little bit of smoke coming out of the barrel. It's obviously certainly been used. You get down to the title low, which is kind of obscured down there in the bottom, along with the rest of the information about the book, you know, what number it is, the price, and the image stuff. You get a pile of a simple pile of shell casings down there. There's some massive holes all around, you know, bullet holes all around. So there's obviously been a fight here. I just really like the fact that it's like layers of watercolor. They simply have this white piece of paper, because you can see the white bleeding through in places, and they just kind of started splashing colors on there, and then started using darker hues and darker hues to build up and define the shapes they wanted to define and whatnot. Curious why there's a fish tail up in the left-hand corner, but beyond that, I really like it. Now this has kind of the oranges and browns in it, but for whatever reason, for me, the oranges and browns work here. It's got a warm feel to it. It's got, you know, a life to it. I just think it's great art. And if this isn't your style of art, maybe this cover isn't good. We will look at composition. I think composition works really well. I think because we're either you're immediately drawn to the lion's head, and that claw that's down there lets you see the title, and then you move upward, or your eye centers on the woman who's riding the lion, her white hair and stuff, and then you work your way down that gun, and then down across to the lion's face, and then down to his paw and the logo at the bottom. So the cover, I think, works to force us to work our way down the cover and look at all the things that we need to look at to stay on task with the cover. So I think that's pretty cool. Works pretty good. Mercenary C, number 8. And maybe this is my problem with this style of art. There's not enough separation between the layers. I mean, it's obviously clearly set in layers. You've got the very foreground. We've got these jungle plants that are blurry because they're, you know, close to our eye. Then you've got the layer that's got this character with the handgun on it, and then you've got a layer back there farther of this, you know, like jungle mask of some sort, snake up in one corner, but there's not enough definition between those layers. So to me, very quickly, if you move back away from this very far, it becomes just kind of a mess of color. It doesn't, the planes aren't defined well enough, in my opinion, especially when at the top around the Mercenary C, they're clearly using just silhouettes to define stuff, as opposed to actually giving it texture. So how come the stuff that's closer to us is in silhouette, and then there's texture way in the background? I don't know. It doesn't work for me. I don't understand. And like I said, maybe it's the style of artwork, and I don't care for the style of artwork in the book, but that doesn't work a whole lot for me. So, Nailbiter, issue number 8. A wonderful, creepy, as far as a horror type book goes, a wonderful, creepy cover. I think you've got this beekeeper, you know, mask and hood and gloves and stuff. Obviously, bees flying all over it. The bees are tumbling out. It makes this kind of, you know, either of a hive that's in there, or just the mass of bees itself, this kind of quasi-skull type face, this big open potential maw or something like that is kind of what it looks like. You know, just wonderfully frightening. It looks kind of like, you know, old school horror from the 60s and 70s, some of those books, I think. It's a great cover. Wouldn't want to run into that dude. Let's see. Odyssey. Whoops. Dang it. I just shrank that. I didn't want to do that. Let's try it again. Odyssey, issue number 2. So, I love the icon-like use of fonts for the title. It's get that out of the way first. So I like that. I think this cover is really interesting. Your eye is immediately drawn right to the center. Those darker green circles that are whirling around pull you right to the figure that's in the middle there. You know, she's in these kind of sea greens and blues, and then you got this neon green popping that is really interesting because it looks like she's splashed into a liquid, but the liquid is actually a bunch of hands and stuff. And I think they're interesting seeing those hands wrap around her and grab her and stuff. And that neon green, and you've got these, like, I don't know, petals or something like that that are in this, you know, pinks that are flitting down, that's really popping. That neon green and that pink being so bold, I think really works. That cover is going to attract your eye, and then because that kind of darker, more neutral space that the character in the middle draws our eye to that. I think it's really interesting. Everything about that to me looks dynamic, and it makes me want to know what's going on, and the brightness of that green would have me picking that up off the shelf. Okay, so let's go down here to the Prophet, Earth War. I think this is a Brandon Graham cover. I could be wrong though. Nope, it's not. It's Gaines Milligans or something like that. Apologize horribly for mispronouncing your name. I am horrible with names. Somewhat interesting. Purples and greens, that works. The red, as far as the colors go, you know, man sitting on a really weird textured throne of sorts, big sword shoved in the ground next to him. It's okay. Composition-wise, it works. Obviously, he's dead center in the middle. Sword to the right-hand side is balanced with the cape rolling off of the left-hand side. The structures that are in the background, whatever those might be, balance the whole thing out. So balance-wise, it works. It's an interesting cover, I guess, for what it is. But being in those dull tones like it is, it doesn't pop. But it's interesting. Sometimes I like my covers to have bright colors on it. Easier just for me to go, I'm interested in that, and to pick it up. Next is Punks the Comic, issue number 3. And I absolutely love this, just for the sole purpose of it's very zine-like. If you're familiar with zines that are out there, you know, it looks like it's a cut up, sort of a you know, like they took pictures of different stuff and cut it together to make an image, to tell a story, to inform us of something in particular. So I really like that. I like this cover. It is interesting. And I'm looking at comments right now, and thank you, T-Rex. She has named the medical symbol for me. Oh, just lost it here, so I can find it again. Damn it. Now I turned it so my old man eyes can read it. I can't find it. A Cadius, I think is how you say it. Anyway, it's in the comments. She has it. Thank you very much. Just Star of Life, what you're asking. John didn't know what it was. Nobody seems to like the nobody seems to like the Goners cover. Yeah. Everybody kind of seems to be in agreement with me. Anyway, so yeah, so here we are with the Punks, the comic. I'm excited about this comic. Yeah, I love this comic in particular. Sorry, I'm drifting off in the comments. I love this comic because I love, you know, the name being Punks. You got this obviously this person, their head is a fist with a spiked collar. That just screams punk. Holding up a sign that's giving us the finger. That screams punk. And then on the tie, it's a skull-headed guy punching the crotch of a dog-headed guy. I just love it. I don't know. Is it punk? I like it. I like it a lot. It just to me seems it just seems really cool. So I'm digging that. And so I'm on board. And I love the lines going away from the fisted, the fist hand. That kind of reminds me of the Japanese Rising Sun thing and whatnot, which seemed to kind of drift around in a lot of the punk bands of the era when punk was first out in the late 70s and early 80s and whatnot. So to me, that just works on all those levels. It's just cool. I'm excited to see what that book's going to be like. At any rate, Rasputin issue number 3. Let's talk Rasputin issue number 3. This is a Riley Erasmo cover and art on the inside, which of course I know will excite a lot of us in the community because we dig that. I love this cover. I love just the black and white, and there's a little bit of red in there because the red kind of pulls our eyes to look to see what the hell's going on. So you see, all these women laying in bed with what I'm assuming is Rasputin. There's that bottle of wine that's spilled at the bottom, and it's got a skull. It's a skull head, which I think is fabulous. If you know anything about Rasputin, one of the things that they did to Rasputin is they poisoned him with his wine to try and kill him that way. So I don't know if that's why this spilled bottle of wine there has that skull. I just think it's really cool. It being upside down, we're seeing it from an upside down, makes this whole kind of bed scene a little more interesting to the eye. But I think I think the cover is balanced well with the lower left half having, basically art going on in it. There's enough blacks in there, enough business in there that it has a kind of yin yang feel to the black top part of the other part of it. So I think it works really well. I think it's cool. Great piece of art. Revival issue number 26. I love this cover. I love this cover for a lot of reasons. Clearly, we see where the light source is coming from, that light above this guy's head, and it lights and informs the picture in a number of ways really well. First and foremost, obviously, clearly, he's supposed to represent an angel. But here's the thing is those wings are on the back wall. He just happens to be standing in front of them. The incandescent light above his head projects him as having a halo, which is great. And because the light's so centered on his face, it really draws us right to the dead center in the middle of the comic, which is perfectly what you want your cover to do. We go down. He's wearing some sort of jacket that has an H and an O on it. He's wearing a shirt underneath it that has an E and R on it. And if you look really closely under the coat, there's some other letters under there. So it's not like he's wearing a shirt that says hero, and he's not wearing a coat that says hero, but the combination of the two together, of course, tells us hero. He's got the prayer beads and the cross. I just think it's kind of a smart cover for what it is as far as that kind of thing. So I think it's great. Jenny Friesen is just a fabulous cover artist. She does great work for Revival. Almost every single issue of Revival has an outstanding cover on it, and this is another one I think it's smart. It's a smart-looking cover. Curious about this character being a hero, though. That would be interesting to talk about. But that's not talking covers, right? So, Rise of the Magi, number 6. Not familiar with this comic at all. Obviously, something that was feels to me like was created on a iPad with the Paint program. It's okay. Composition-wise, it works, but I don't know. Style-wise, it's one of those ones that, to a large degree, feels fairly simple and kind of lazy in some ways. Not to insult the artist, but that just doesn't do anything for me at all. Roach Limit, number 4. Okay, I love this cover. And this is the first... I don't know what any of you guys think about when you see this cover. The first thing I think of when I see this cover is Mobius. That's the artist that comes to mind, and I absolutely love Mobius. He Mobius truly is a genius when it comes to sequential art. Not that this is genius work, but anyway, side note. But that's what this reminds me of, and I absolutely love it. The yellows and reds are really striking against each other. You get these strange symbols down the bottom. I'm okay with that. That's balanced out by this top thing with this, figure that's blue. I love the line, the inking to create the texture of it and the shape. I think it's a fabulous way to do that. I don't think there's enough, cross hashing and that sort of artwork in there. And then, of course, we've got more of this like confetti of yellows and reds scattering along in there. To me, it's just a very appealing cover. It makes you want to pick it up and open it up and see what is going on inside this book because that's, to me, that's an intriguing cover. And like I said, composition-wise, it works because if you're looking straight down the middle of the comic, the figure is leaned way to the right, and to balance that out, they, of course, made the left side more busy with that kind of confetti of whatever it is that's going on there, and less so on the right-hand side. So it's centered as far as that goes, plus the fact I also think when you look at the book, you look at all that confetti and your eyes are drawn to the direction it feels like it's going, because it feels like it's going to the direction of the points, which leads us to that figure that's tipping over or whatever it is. But a cool cover. I think it's a cool cover. Savage Dragon, issue number 201. Eric Larson, who draws his inspiration, I feel like, lots of times from Kirby, has that kind of how to draw the Marvel way kind of aspect to it, as far as the dynamics of the things that are close to us are really big, and the things that are farther away from us are really small. That being said, the female in white here is pretty absurd as far as her anatomy goes and whatnot. She obviously has no upper torso other than rib cage and breasts. So I mean, you can go after that all you want to. She seems a bit ridiculous anyway, just because she's got darts all over. I don't know. The thing is, I don't understand. Is she kicking? Is she kicking the Savage Dragon in the head there, or are they both jumping down? Not sure exactly what's going on there as far as that goes. But this really feels like image art from the 90s, doesn't it? I mean, that's what it feels to me like. And obviously, it's been successful for Mr. Larson, because he's got 201 issues under his belt. So somebody must dig that. It's not my cup of tea, though. I'm not a fan of this. I like the Kirby-esque-ness of it, as far as the, in the Marvel way, the big up front, small in the back, extra blown out of proportion dynamics. But the actual anatomy itself, not a real big fan of. Synergy number 2. Let's look at the regular cover first. And I have to tell you, I have no freaking idea what is going on in this cover. It is really strange. So we've got some person, I don't know if they're supposed to be riding at the top of this multi-eyed demon-looking thing. I mean, it's multi-eyed, multi-mouthed thing at the bottom, or if they're using the ears of this demon thing to split the cover in half, and you got this figure on top pointing their finger. It's got a bloody hockey stick wearing this same looking mask that the demon thing is, or like I said, or if it's writing it. I'm not sure. Not sure what's going on there. It's interesting enough, though. Just what's on there is entertaining enough, though. I would pick this book up just to see what's going on the inside, because it looks kind of strange as far as that goes. I hate the fact that it says up there from the co-creator of Powers. I mean, I understand that they're trying to get people to pay attention to this because Powers is popular, or was popular. But anyway, that's a side point. But yeah, it's kind of strange. It's kind of a strange. I mean, I look at it a bunch because the extra mouths, the extra eyes. I like the color. I don't know. It's weird. That's a just kind of a. I want to say it's a mess, but I kind of like it too. So, and then there is the Mike Allred cover, which if you're a Mike Allred fan, this is fun. If you're not, then I guess it's not. It's just kind of amusing. And this face, I mean, it's simply this face wearing that strange like vampire bat mask. You know, more than just licking their lips. I mean, they're taking the whole. So I don't know if that's supposed to be licking their lips in a sensual way, because that's way beyond that with the tongue stuck out that far. At least for me, anyway. It doesn't do anything for me as far as that goes. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's an okay cover too. It's strange. That's the B cover. That's strange. Spread issue number 6. I hear this book is really gory and whatnot, and of course this page will give us that. So red set on white. It's okay as far as color composition goes. Weight of the cover, obviously, there's not much at the top, so your eye's drawn to the bottom of it. That works as far as that goes. It's balanced, you know, with the character on the one side with the hatchet, you know, spread out in the tentacles, and then these other figures coming up on them. It's interesting as far as that goes. Strange way to draw hair. It's like the hair is drawn as an after effect. I like the shading, the inking shading on this, though. I like the cross hatching and that sort of stuff as far as the inking goes. I think it's really interesting. Not exactly sure why it's all in flesh tones of red. And I'm not 100% sure that that works on white, but I kind of like the cover. Superannuated Man number 5. And this is like most of these covers. Most of these covers have the character he on the cover of it, and some sort of evolved animal that looks humanoid, you know, on the cover. This one looks Frankenstein. I like the art, but I don't think the composition of this one works very well with this kind of. I mean, the dog is obviously clearly well behind the human character, but somehow his jowl and drool wants to hang over his shoulder, so I don't think that works as far as that goes. I mean, because both of his arms, I mean, you know, off to the right-hand side of the human character is obviously this dog guy's shoulder. So he's clearly well behind him, so I'm not sure how he can drool on him with the way this picture is drawn. I mean, and some people are going to say, oh, that's you being really nitpicky about those angles and stuff, but I don't know. I look at it and I go, I don't know how that happens. I don't know how that one jowl and drool hangs out and flops over like that. I do like the fact, though, that you look at it and his face and his eyes are looking at the dog's eyes. Your eyes are drawn there first, and I think that's smart to get a picture of both of their faces. It just, you get off to the side and then it kind of gets strange. I still love this book, though, for the art on the inside. Okay, Supreme, the Blue Rose number 5. Kind of wishing I'd kept getting this book. So the cover of all of these have basically been relatively the same. You have this of this female, basically kind of this female character in the same position, and as each cover has gone along, it's become a little more sinister, a little stranger in a lot of ways. And so this cover works, excuse me, works as far as a series goes. If you have this in your collection, you're thumbing through all of these, it's going to look really, really cool, I think. And the composition of the cover works. You know, she takes up the most of the thing here. If your eyes center on the white stuff, it pulls you to her, which pulls you down to what's going on in the rest of the cover. And so then each of these covers are interesting in, if you have the collection, because you get to see this slow evolution or de-evolution, depending on how you want to look at it, of the character. And in this one, I kind of like it in the fact that, you know, their kind of eyes have gotten weird, the way they colored it, the way the red pops off like it's actually luminescent, the symbols that are down on the desk there are actually popping up like they're luminescent, like it's actually glowing. I think they do a good job as far as that goes. And like I said, for me, this cover is most interesting if you have the body of work because you're going to see, I really think you're going to be able to kind of put these covers all together and see this really interesting progression that might be really interesting. And this is kind of representative of kind of what the art looks like on the inside, I think, too. Tula Latoya is an interesting artist, I think. Does some interesting stuff, so cool as far as that goes. Tech Jacket number 6. Standard superhero affair as far as covers go. Lots of people flying across a empty void, and it looks like they're shooting stuff at stuff. Pretty standard superhero affair. Nothing too exciting as far as I'm concerned. You know, the layers of different people in the background. My only question would be: are those guys actually bigger, or are we just putting a bunch of shapes out there just to fill up space? So, not too exciting of a cover. Tooth and Claw issue number 2. Here we go. Interesting cover. Another white cover. Why are there so many white covers for Image this year? Anyway, so you've got this white cover, obviously this river of what seems to be blood running towards us. I think that is really cool looking. And I like it matched against the colors they use are kind of greens and blues, and of course greens and blues versus the reds. They're opposite of each other on the color wheel, so they work as far as as far as that goes. So that works. Composition wise, might be a little heavy on the left as opposed to the right. I guess the title balances that out some. It's okay. Obviously, clearly tells me there's some sort of fantasy situation going on. So if I'm interested in fantasy mags, I'd probably pick this up and check it out. Don't know if I actually will, but yeah. Here is the B cover. I think this is the B cover. They're calling it the B cover. Oh, it's a variant cover by Alex Ross. So it looks pretty epic because you got painted Alex Ross of a bunch of animal humanoids here. You know, dogman, owl, bear. It's fairly interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Not a lot to say about it. Trees number 8. Really been digging this book. Loving most of these covers. I actually really like this one too. I love the graphic nature of it. Not graphic as in gory, even though it looks like blood splaying off there, but just the way the cover's broken up, silhouette at the top up there, using a positive space instead of negative space. Looks like they're cutting on one of these trees, blood spraying off. You have this river coming down, opens up and changes the color. You know, they have the title down here at the bottom. I think really it works really well. It's very simple and very striking. It tells you something's going on, but keeps it very, very, very simple. And I think that works. Most of these covers have been that way, more of kind of an iconic, more using graphics as opposed to drawing some piece of art. And yeah, it works. It draws your eye all the directions it's supposed to. You get down to the nitty-gritty of it. You got the person with the chainsaw on one side cutting. To balance that out, you have the spray of red coming off the other side. Yeah, works out really well. Umbral issue number 12. This Umbral cover looks to me like most of the other covers that I remember. Usually somebody on the cover kind of glancing into some sort of a crystal ball kind of a thing. Yeah, it's okay. Pen and ink with some watercolor washes. Composition-wise, it works. Everything stays together. You got a balance of all the stuff going on there. But nothing for me to be super excited about or hate. It's a cover. Voice in the Dark, Get Your Gun, issue number 4. I'll tell you now, I'm not going to like this. It's so flat. It's so dead. This style of coloring and art does not interest me. It's basically the minimal amount of line drawing. You allow the colorist to attempt to give the picture any depth that it might have, and it it feels relatively simple, and not simple in a eye-pleasing way, but simple in as in a that there's no texture to it. And then they just threw a background of blobs of colors or something just to say that there's a background. So nothing about that appeals to me whatsoever. Wayward number 5. Interesting cover, I guess. I mean, you got these interesting characters with samurai swords and these wolves running forward. Everything draws your eye to the center of the book, which is good. That's what you wanted to do. And that main character is set in the middle. Yeah, it's okay. I don't necessarily have an opinion one way or the other, I guess, on it. It's a cover. It works. Nothing seems wrong or broken about it. The colors work together in kind of a harmonious way, I guess. Oh, Witchblade 181. Let me quickly talk about this one too. Some of those ones I don't like the background. The background feels kind of photoshopped in and not in an organic way, but the layers feel too abrupt in this. I mean, I understand it's a smart way of probably doing it artistically. You could design each part and then lay them all together, and that makes sense. But she feels like the way she is, the lighting around her, she looks like she was cut out and placed on this picture, and I don't like the way that part of it looks. The other part that's strange is, of course, the kind of the backside of her head and that shoulder with the Witchblade armor on it is lit from the top behind. So if it's lit from the top behind, how is on the right-hand side of the cover, how is the back of her hand lit? It can't work that way because there's obviously not light coming from both sources. I know that, like I said, people are going to say, oh, that sounds nitpicky, but it pulls me out of what's going on when I see the light source isn't right. If you're going to use light source like that, you have to maintain it or show more that shows there's light coming from their direction, and it clearly isn't. What a critic I am, huh? Which is issue number 3. I love this cover. I love this cover because it feels very visceral. There's obviously a man in there somewhere, but your eye goes right to the which is the title, which of course you want to know what the title of the book is, and then it's just this kind of exploding energy, bloody heat spot. And there's a guy buried back in there somewhere, and it looks, when you get out to the outer edges with the paint splatters and whatnot, it looks cosmic, but it feels very textural, and it has kind of an organic feel to it, and I really like that. You can see a hand slipping out towards the bottom there. Yeah, that's an eye-popping cover because of the brightness of it set in that background and whatnot, and I would pick this up just because of how bam it is. So I like it for that. And finally, Zero, issue number 13. I don't like the title. I don't like the graphic that's used for that font. To me, it's set weird. Some of it's set on a perspective, so we're looking down on the top left-hand corner, and then some of it's kind of like they didn't want to commit completely to that. So that's kind of goofy as far as that goes. And then, of course, our eye is drawn to this, whatever this is, this piece of mechanics or whatever that's splattered there on this yellow background. And normally I'm pro opposite colors, the yellow versus the blues. But with this kind of robin eggs blue and this intensely bright lemon yellow, I don't know that really really works very well. Well, I just noticed something, that this art is by Alberto Ponticelli. I may have to pick this book up, even though I'm picking on it, because it doesn't tell me who did the cover. So, oh, it is by Ponticelli. That's interesting. Not much work here. He's an artist that did that did Frankenstein, Agent of Shade, and I absolutely love that art towards the end. So I may have to pick this book up because I've been wondering what Poncelli's been up to since that book was canceled, and then the other books he's on were canceled. Anyway, back onto the cover. So yeah, it's an okay cover. Nothing about this informs me. It doesn't tell me a story. It doesn't wow me. It's other than the yellow is too intense of a yellow. I actually want to turn away and not look at it because of how bright the yellow is and stuff on it. So there's that, and that is Marvel's covers. How about that? Thank you all for joining me. Have 8 viewers right now. Tons of comments that I will go back over and look at and make some comments on there and talk about that. I love the fact that some of you guys are sharing your opinions on those covers too. That's awesome. I'm kind of thinking I want to see if I can get some people on to talk these covers with me so we can all check them out together and talk about them, because who wants to listen to me for an hour? Well, I guess some of you do. You guys keep saying you want these videos. But talking for an hour about art has to get old, right? So at any rate, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Thanks for all of you who will watch this later in whatever sense that you choose to watch it. That's great. Next, in the next couple of days, I'm going to do Marvel and I'm going to do DC. We'll talk some superhero comics and how they're composed and whatnot. You tend to have a lot more to say about those, it seems like, good or bad, for whatever that's worth. If you happen to be on here live, if you're going to be hanging around throughout the night, I think in, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours on Sleepy Reader 66 channel, they're going to be talking Superman and Grant Morrison, and then later in the night they'll be talking more Superman. And so if you're interested in any of that, check that out. And have a good day, everybody, and have a great weekend. And I will see you all somewhere along the way in other videos, right? Have a great one, everybody.